So Eric Ten Hag has been given another season to try and put Man United back into the top four and closer to Liverpool, Arsenal, and in particular, obviously, Manchester City. Today's video, we're going to look at a couple of signings that one that they've already made in Joshua Zirkzee, and a couple of other potential signings, and then how Man United need to set up, what they need to do. Obviously, we need to sort out that defence first, not just in terms of personnel, but obviously how we set up tactically. We're going to pinch a few ideas from the FA Cup final victory as well, but just give it a little bit more of an attacking impetus. Obviously, we're not going to play like we did against Manchester City. I think it was like, 28% possession or something like that. We can't do that week in, week out, but we can set up a couple of structures to give us that basis, and in particular, Joshua Zirkzee. Remember, we played with that without a recognised striker against Manchester City. Having Joshua Zirkzee up there as well does help, in particular with build-up. All right, guys, let's dive into it. Smash a like on today's video. We've got two tactics as well. Both will be available for the Patreons. Link down in the description. Thank you to everyone who's on screen right now for your support on the channel. I will go through all the team and player instructions. So if you don't want to be a Patreon, you can copy it in yourself. But said, £3 a month, you get all the tactical downloads, early release as well, if you become the top tier member. All right, guys, let's get into it. So first thing, we've made a couple of transfers. I was kind of going to do a little bit of a rebuild, but I've just turned it into a tactical video. So Casemiro, Greenwood, Pellistri, Van der Beek, Hannibal, Kambala, all gone. I've brought in Joshua Zirkzee, obviously. We've brought in Matthijs de Ligt because it does look like that is going to happen. Manuel Ugarte as well, heavily linked with the club. Man United desperate for a 6. And then the other option, they need 2 number 6s. Man United not got a lot of money to play with. I wasn't going to do something stupid like a João Neves because that is just not realistic at all, I don't think, with his price. So we have brought in Andre, who has gone off the boil a little bit in Brazil for Fluminense. I think that's down to their drop in form. Denis really struggling towards the latter part of last season, even though they won the Cup. Their league form has suffered. So he's gone off the boil in terms of European clubs chasing him. But I thought, look, he would be a nice little addition to be a backup 6, playing Europa games, and then maybe getting back to what potentially he was looking at 6 to 12 months ago. So that is the ins. It sets us up nicely to play, obviously, a 4-2-3-1, which you would expect because we've got Bruno in the side. So you've got your 2 fullbacks in Dalot and Wan-Bissaka. De Ligt, Martinez first choice with Harry Maguire and Lindelof staying for one more season, and Evans just to be backups. We're not going to be able to spend much more. I find it strange that we're bidding for 3 centre-halves in De Ligt, Branthwaite and Yoro at the moment. Highly unlikely that we'll probably sign more than one, maybe. I don't know, unless money comes from somewhere magical. Luke Shaw on the left with Malacia if he gets himself fit. Little bit of an issue there, potentially. I suppose Dalot can go over there if need be. Middle of the midfield, you've got Ugarte and then Andre. Mason Mount, I've been playing instead of, obviously, it should be Kobe. But in the game, Kobe Manu is just not as good yet. In particular, technicals are really poor to what potentially he could be. So I have been just playing Mason Mount, and I do fancy Mason Mount to go in there alongside Ugarte. He did a good 45 minutes against Spurs really early on the season, playing as like a link player alongside Casemiro, and did really well. And I do think that's potentially where we could get the best out of him. Obviously, the wide players, Garnacho, Rashford, Diallo, not a big fan of, Anthony, and then also Jadon Sancho started pre-season training again. I would probably keep him unless we can find a really suitable replacement to come in and really challenge these two. Fernandes, Scott McTominay, Eriksen, Mason Mount can all do the 10. Even Joshua Zirkzee could do it. And then up front, Zirkzee and Højlund. Obviously, 2 hugely different profiles. So if you were aware about Joshua Zirkzee, very much likes to link play. He's not an absolute goal getter. He wants to drop in here, link play. He has a very much like a kind of bit of like a Berbatov-y kind of swagger, and almost looks lazy and laboured at times, but it isn't. It's just his natural sort of body movement, but does like to come in and link play. Obviously, will get in the box, but not as much as what he maybe should. Obviously, we know Højlund is the exact opposite. Yes, can play with his back to goal, but does like to go chasing in behind. So it gives Manchester United and Eric Ten Hag really good options. And what I liked in the FA Cup, I will leave my FA Cup video down in the description for you to watch, but Man United did so well was obviously they went into a low block and we played with a false nine. I think this was like McTominay, Fernandes, Rashford and Garnacho. I do think Garnacho as well, he's so much better suited on the right-hand side. Playing on the left, because he likes to drive into the byline in these wide areas, he's not great on his left foot. This gives him the option as well. Cut balls back with his better foot and then drive in and then hit with his right foot across the goalkeeper. So it gives us this option of playing this sort of like 4-2-4 out of possession. Really narrow block, compact, difficult to break the lines, and then Ugarte and Mount sitting in a double pivot behind. What we've got in play as well, what we tried to recreate as much as possible. Remember the Garnacho run. Rashford had a couple against it. Unfortunately, he had Kyle Walker to come up against, but if it had been anyone else, he would have got in a lot more down that left-hand side. But what we're trying to create is Xerxes and Fernandes coming in to make a little bit of a box midfield in here, and then allowing Rashford and Garnacho to be our players getting in behind and stretching the play. Something that obviously England have struggled with. Harry Kane dropping in, which we know that he's best at. The issue was we didn't have a Rashford and we didn't have a Garnacho to get in behind. That man should have gone to the Euros. That's all I'm saying. Right, I'm going to go through all the team instructions and play instructions. We've got a second one as well, which is a diamond, just in case he wants to change it up and wants to go with a front two at times and be a Rashford and Xerxes or a Xerxes and Højlund. Obviously, they're going to have to play a lot to keep both of them happy. So there may be times he has played with a diamond at times with two wider forwards. So he may at some point go with that. That would obviously see Garnacho probably coming out. Maybe needs a rest. It'd probably see a Fernandes in there. It would probably see a Højlund in there up front with maybe a midfield of Menu, Mount and Ugarte. But primarily, we're looking at this one. All right, so sweeper keeper, Anana on attack. No player instructions. So back four, and in particular the back three, we're trying to build up with a back three. He'll want to build up with a back three. And what I thought was Garnacho's going to hold the width on this right-hand side. Shaw and Rashford do like to link up down that left-hand side. Him coming wider will naturally push in Rashford. Rashford wants to work in these areas rather than the touchline, where he can then shift it onto his right foot and hit. So that gives us a little bit of balance. Dalot, unfortunately, I've gone unverted fullback so we can build with a back three, but I would have, if I could, I would have had Dribble more on just so he can carry in that area. Maybe we could go inverted wing back on defend, but just to make us really solid, I think he does need to go down the route of, we do play in moments. Manchester United have been a team of Garnacho, Fernandes, Rashford, being able to play in moments, and I think Arsenal have done that to a certain extent, but with a really good defensive structure. So this for me is like the Ben White role, where Dalot is very good at moving the ball forward, still will get round. I've seen clips of him getting into the box. Isn't as if he's going to stay back all the time. However, it will help in build-up. So Martinez would come out to the left. De Ligt would then move up. So in build-up, it would look probably something like that, with a clear, hopefully a clear passing lane into Garnacho so we can get a 1v1 in early. So the player instructions: ball playing defender De Ligt, dribble more because he does like to carry. And I've also done that with Martinez, but I've also got the instruction of stay wider because we want to create that scenario with the left centre half in Martinez coming into this area. We then need to move Martinez across. So that's why we've got stay wider on in possession. Luke Shaw, complete wing-back on support, very well suited to that. Malacia can also do a job when he finally gets himself fit. I thought that gave us a good balance. Maybe as well, Aaron Wan-Bissaka might not be great at that and might just end up having to be sort of like a no-nonsense full-back just so we get that sort of like that basic three, kind of a 3-4-1 structure in build-up. Or a 3-3-4 in build-up. Into the midfield, Ugarte, very aggressive. Obviously, some of the tacticos on Twitter have kind of said he's not that great, but there's not a lot of options out there at the moment. He's got a good physical profile, get about the pitch, really aggressive, so I think Manchester United fans will absolutely love him. Winning midfielder on defend, that's what I've gone for. This one is kind of like, as I said, the Cobby role, but with Mason Mount also in there as well. Deep line playmaker on support, but with the player instruction of dribble more. Mount, good carry, and in particular, Cobby is best when he jinks through and gets past people, so deep line playmaker on support for him. Into the front four, we've gone Garnacho, winger on attack, run wide with the ball, keeping that width as much as we can. With then Fernandes in this I've tried it with just the bog standard in the middle and then Xerxes up there, but to get that kind of like that 4-4-2 out of possession, Manchester City are really good with it with Haaland and De Bruyne. Arsenal were really good with it with Havertz and Odegaard. Can we press in a 4-4-2? And this gives us the option to do that a lot better. Joshua Xerxes does like to drift out to this left-hand side as well. Decent on both feet, so we have no problem. Fernandes, AP on support. Player instructions, more direct passes, because that's, even though he says it's not suited to it, that's what he does. Cross more often, because that's what he does. Dribble less, we don't want him dribbling with it. Roam from position, and then mark tighter, in particular, maybe a number 10, number 6. He did a decent role, sort of like guarding the two players. Who was it? Kovacic. It would have been Rodri and maybe Kovacic in the first half against Manchester City in that FA Cup final. Left-hand side, Marcus Rashford, no play instructions. I was going to go stay wider, but we do want him working in here. The idea, and I'll show you a clip in a minute, is that obviously we get this box midfield with Agate, Mount, Fernandes and Xerxes, and that leaves that space in behind. Hopefully he drags the defender out. If he does, it leaves then space for Rashford to attack. If he doesn't get a follower, then Xerxes then be able to turn, get on the half turn, and then turn and run himself. So that's why we've left that off, just so he can really work in that like half space in between that full back and centre half, exploiting that space, and we've got a nice little clip of that. And then Joshua Xerxes, deep lying forward on support. If I was doing this with Højlund in there, it would simply be just an advance forward, and we will still kind of get that 4-4-2, but we just won't get that movement of Joshua Xerxes dribbling in. Not a huge goal scorer. He's going to have to... I think the thing with Xerxes is he played in a very possession-orientated Thiago Motta Bologna last year. We're not overly adventurous, so hopefully he will get more action in around the penalty area this year. He does need to kind of do box breaking a little bit better. So once he's done that, he does like to hover in around. Obviously, we're going to need him to get in the box, but we're going to need double goal contributions from Garnacho, Rashford and Fernandes if Xerxes is going to be the main man this season. Okay, in possession, so positive mentality, in possession, play out of defence, slightly shorter passing, higher tempo, obviously, talking about transitions and moving that ball quickly with the players that we've got in those forward areas, fairly wide attacking width, low crosses, just because Højlund and Xerxes, even though that are quite big physical guys, what's his Xerxes? 6'4". Højlund must be 6'2", is he? Yeah, 6'3", but neither of them amazing in the air, but they do have long legs, and I do fancy, low crosses coming in, and Xerxes maybe dipping in at a near post, or a Højlund, we know like he likes to drive in at that sort of like in and around that 6-yard box. So low crosses. In transition, counter press, yes. We're going to have to be so much better at this. It may help with Joshua Xerxes in there, and better with that we've got an Agate and a fit Mount and a more experienced Menu that can kind of back up the play. Tyus De Ligt, Martinez both fit, like to play with high lines, so we could probably get away with that counter pressing a little bit more. Counter attacking, obviously, yes. Distribute to centre halves. Out of possession, we've gone for it in terms of if everyone's fit and firing. No reason why we can't play it in the opposition's half. I've also done this as well because to make sure that when we're playing against teams against low blocks, Man United are generally going to be really high. We don't want to be sitting into a mid-block in those teams playing with a low block. We want to be squeezing up, dominating the ball in the opposition's half as much as possible. Trap outside, I've done that just so then the midfield too and that attacking four just come a little bit closer together. Into the diamond, if I change the player roles a little bit, so obviously it would look like Højlund there, advanced forward. I've not changed any of the player roles for the ones that we've got. Obviously, Dalot is in there now as a wing-back on attack with Shaw as a complete wing-back. We've got overlap left and right on. Mazzala, you would probably say like, maybe Mount a Mazzala in there alongside maybe a Kobe. McTominay can maybe go in there. And then AP and then Xerxes and Højlund working together with obviously the width coming from the wide players. You probably know Højlund will definitely make runs, maybe Mount making a run into this space as well. I do think we will see that at certain points during the season. He may go even down a different route as well. In latter parts of games, he may drop Fernandes in there and get rid of Menu. So put Fernandes in there to play alongside Agate. Put Højlund up there and just play a classic 4-2-4. Maybe, when we're losing games against teams that are really sat in and we need to push for the last 20 minutes. Xerxes will naturally drift in there, but having two players up there side by side could be really good against teams that are just packing in, back fives and be a 5-4-1 out of possession, allowing the two wide fullbacks to get into that attacking third as much as possible. Now, so far, so good. Defensively, as you can see, absolutely superb. We've been clever with the ball. It's not been, I've been watching games on Comprehensive. It's not been absolutely mind-blowing, but at the moment, the way football's going, where Man United probably need to look at themselves in terms of defensively, we've set them up really nicely. Okay, our first little clip, there's Joshua Zirkzee there. We do actually score, and there is a little bit of a turnover in play, and then we kind of get on the second ball, but what I'm trying to show you here is just the movement of Zirkzee. So there's our 4. Garnacho getting hopefully a 1v1 in there against Bueno. They're playing with a back 5. So we want to exploit these areas. Rashford coming in narrow. Remember that inside forward, we said we want him working that kind of that space between like either a wide centre-half and a centre-half or a full-back and a centre-half. Zirkzee, find him some space. Defender's not come initially. Gives him then the opportunity. Now this is what we get for a lot of the time from Zirkzee. Quite direct sometimes in terms of how he wants to play. Looking for runners. He will absolutely love the runners of Garnacho and Rashford off him. We don't get it the first time. However, Luke Shaw picks it up just where we want Rashford. Look, working in these areas in the penalty area. Working well with Luke Shaw. We've missed that partnership down the left-hand side and Bruno Fernandes tapping home. And here we go with us building Garnacho. This is what I'm talking about with Garnacho and being on his stronger foot inside the penalty area. Dalot working, we've kind of got that back 3 to start with. Luke Shaw giving us width, balance on this left-hand side because we know Rashford is going to want to once again get in that space between the sort of like the full-backs, wing-backs and the centre-halves. Menu, Garnacho's run, look, even though we've got him to run wide with the ball, in possession, he'll still come in winger on attack, gets inside the area and hits it on his right foot. He's not going to do that with his left foot. His left foot is not great. And I do think having him out there and then coming in onto his better right foot should give us a good, decent balance as well. But at the same time, helping him hopefully have a better goal return. And then this one is what Man United do best. Once again, building with that back 3. Martinez, De Ligt and Dalot. Luke Shaw giving us that balance on that left-hand side. Look at Garnacho holding the touch on it. Also, what it does do is creates a little bit of space in these areas here for maybe a Fernandes to move into, a Zirkzee to move into, and we work it through. Kobe, I think, actually gets involved. He's doing the number 8 role. Look, he gets in that little space, and now look at the space that we've got. Garnacho, runner off the fullback, low cross, Rashford getting in that back post to tap home. So that's what we could do with that Garnacho roll staying nice and wide on that right-hand side. Okay, and this is just going to show you, if I just highlight as many players as possible just so you can see. We've just had a turnover in possession. Ball band gone back to the goalkeeper. As you see, Zirkzee's got a really nice starting position. Really deep, looking for any balls that are coming out. And I've got a clip in a little bit to show you. So this is how we build out. Obviously, Martinez, De Ligt, both comfortable on the ball. Into the number 8. Into Fernandes playing as the 10. Trying to get Garnacho, that little 1v1. And then here, once again, Zirkzee. The defenders have decided not to follow him and allow him to drift in. And then that's given us that little bit of a 2v1 in there. We've pulled Palhinha out, who's gone to close down Mount. And we've got now overloading 2v1. Joshua Zirkzee. And he'll love to take this on the half turn. And then we look at Marcus Rashford. He's already on his way. And then once again, how we build up. Martinez driving forward when he can, especially like need to do this against teams with low blocks to try and just bait the press a little bit. He's managed to do it. We then get Zirkzee. Now look how deep he is. Come really deep. Once again, they've not decided to follow, but we've got a huge overload in the middle of midfield now. We've literally got a 1, 2, 3, 4, a 5 against 3 in there. Zirkzee in again to Garnacho. Drifting in, Dalot liking to build up with the back 3 as we said. Luke Shaw, look, just giving us that option on that left-hand side. Zirkzee, linking play. He'll do plenty of this, dropping in, linking play. I think Manchester United have been quite poor over the last few years of keeping possession. In particular in that final third. Rashford, Garnacho, Bruno, Højlund, all sloppy in possession. And we'll see a big change, hopefully, because of the signing of Joshua Zirkzee. Dalot, look now, inverted fullback, but he's hitting the byline to cross the ball. Zirkzee not great in the air, but another little bit of a clip of build-up how we're going to play. Right, we've been counter-attacked on, but we're going to actually win the ball back and then counter ourselves. So Palhinha driving into Iwobi. I think this is where we win it. We do. And then just watch Joshua Zirkzee. Joshua Zirkzee, I think it's going to go into Bruno here, but just watch the movement of Joshua Zirkzee. It's kind of like a dummy run to take the defender away, then shows to feet, and then he knows Rashford is going. To be fair, Rashford, he's got a 1v1. It's FM. I think naturally you would see Marcus Rashford really cutting in and being a little bit more direct. Loses the ball, but I think we're going to see that so much in the season. Joshua Zirkzee just coming out to that left-hand side a little bit, pulling in a defender, spinning, turning, maybe spinning a defender, rolling a defender, and then feeding in Rashford on that left-hand side. All right, guys, that is it. Thanks for watching. Smash a like before you disappear. Take care.